Hello, hello! David Snowpick here from Snowpick Games. Welcome to the stream. Something's weird with my headphones. I think I have a loose wire or something somewhere. Maybe one of these potentiometers is starting to go. Annoying. How is everyone doing? I see that we have Adam Scott on the stream. Anyone else out there, please let me know. I don't know who's watching until someone says something in the chat, and you get a cool little character. Which... we need to do some work on this overlay. I forget when it was that we built this overlay. Well, let's see if your words will come through, Adam. Speaking of the overlay, yay! We built this overlay on stream, but like 2 years ago now, I think. It's still Godot 3. It still could use like a ton of other features. Yeah, you do have a pretty cool character. You got what appears to be my hairline and a sweet twisted staff and some big shoulder blade armor kind of thing going. Not shoulder blade. What's the word I'm trying to think of? But I mean shoulder, but there's oh, I can't think of it. Whatever. You look cool. I'm just someone with braids. Also cool, but not quite as cool as you are. Oh yeah, it could be a bow. Could be a bow. I interpret it as a twisty staff. That's the best thing about pixel art. A lot of it is left to your imagination. So people, I guess, with bigger animations or bigger imaginations see better art, and people with worse imaginations see less good art. So how are you doing, Adam? And anyone else who is out there, please let me know how you are doing. This has been a busy week. It's hard to find, why am I looking at this? Let's exit here. Exit without saving? I think I had intended for Blender to be open over here. Let me get that over there. But yeah, like I was saying, it's been a crazy busy week, but like there isn't that much to point to that's like interesting to talk about for all of the busyness that was this week. Lots of stuff working on trying to get Godot 4.3 going on the pieces that I'm responsible for, that being XR stuff and GD extension stuff. Been doing of course more work on VR and improving Godot support for Meta headsets. Something really cool. Apparently Meta does these like hackathons, which a hackathon is like basically the same as a game jam. It's just like in non-games open source or non-games just like development in general, they call them hackathons, but then in the game space we call them game jams for some reason. But anyway, apparently Meta does these hackathons periodically where they get a bunch of developers to come down to one of their offices and build stuff for their headsets, and they only like officially support Unity and Unreal, and they'll actually have some Unity and Unreal devs there to like support the developers working on these projects. But there was a team that went to a hackathon that actually happened this week that decided, no, they're not going to use one of those officially supported platforms. They're going to use Godot instead. And they were using, master with a bunch of like PRs pulled in, and the Godot OpenXR vendors repo, which has like some vendor extensions, so you can do like some of the special features of the Meta headset. They were pulling in unmerged PRs and like fixing the conflicts and doing all this crazy stuff, which is the power of open source, but also like a ton of work. Like they really put in a lot of work to do this. And I still haven't seen the output of their work at the hackathon. I'm really excited to see it, but like, man, the amount of investment they put in to make Godot work, and that they were representing Godot, and hopefully, doing something that will impress the Meta people there. Autumn says, I'm super fine, working hard on web audio. I saw that stuff. So I just was seeing what you were posting in Rocket Chat, but yeah, it sounded like you had audio playing and controlling the volume through the same like mixing API that we have in Godot, even though like I guess it's not going through the same pipeline. And since my understanding was that you're using like the HTML5 APIs to play the audio rather than the normal Godot thing. Anyway, that's super, super cool. It's looking real nice. Well, sounding nice. Yeah. So this hackathon, like they didn't have we didn't have Godot people there to support the developers, the same as there's like Unity and Unreal people there to support the developers. But we were doing the best that we could, the XR team, to try and support the folks at the hackathon. Actually, Malcolm Nixon, one of the XR team members, I think he did really the most work trying to because okay. Things are in kind of a weird state in Master right now. Like we're trying to get to the Godot 4.3 release. A couple of weeks ago, there were some things merged that like broke a ton of stuff in XR, and we have been working really hard to fix it. But it was like the worst time for someone to say like, "Ooh, I'm gonna go do this hackathon, and I'm gonna use like Godot Master." Like, no, it's like half broken right now, which is why they had to pull in all those PRs and stuff. But Malcolm had been doing a ton of work the end of last week, over the weekend, the beginning of this week, and I guess throughout the whole week. But I mean, they could only really use the stuff that was done at the beginning of the week. Trying to really stabilize things and doing just awesome stuff. Yeah. I mean, my contribution primarily was just trying to help answer questions and unblock them if they were blocked and didn't know how to do something. So that was the best we could do to support them, not actually being able to be at the event in an official capacity. Cool. Use the same workflow for users for playing the web audio. This will be really great. Poor meta team. Yeah, so I don't know, not much else has been going on by me. I think since the last stream, I have had a chance to do a little bit of more work on this project, which is still slowly chugging forward. Last time on stream, we were making the plane explode. And I've done a little bit more work on the exploding plane. I think at the end of last stream, we had it falling away, spinning, and exploding. I added a seat, so then it sort of feels like your seat has been ejected from the plane, and then a parachute comes out of the seat. So that way we are not killing the player, which is good, I think, for morale. in VR, getting killed can be kind of stressful. Like it's I think more stressful than getting killed in a non-VR game, because like, man, when those zombies get up in your face, like it is kind of stressful. So anyway, we're not going to stress the player out. This is a very chill game. Yeah, and I added a parachute sound effect that I found somewhere. And a like restart thing, so it'll come up and say, hold the trigger and restart. And there's a bug in that. We might want to try and fix the bug with that. It was working when I set it up, but lately it's been crashing every time I tried to do the hold the trigger and went to hold the trigger to restart. So perhaps we'll work on that. Yeah, and I should probably just show you this stuff, honestly. But one of the other things we were talking about on the last stream was this aiming site, which I'd created last time, and it looks like references I found from 1920s fighter biplanes. But then when I tried to use it, it was just a little too realistic. You had to use it like a real sight, basically. You had to look at the object you were aiming at, which, with binocular stereo vision would mean you see two of them, and then you have to I guess know which one of those two images is your dominant eye, and then line that up with the target. Anyway, it just, for a game, it sucks. Maybe for people who are into simulators, but I think people would probably want something a little bit easier to use, so I ended up trashing this and put in a basically artificial sight, like a very gamey kind of thing that floats out there. You don't have to worry about stereo vision. You just put it on top of the target and you shoot. And I think it works pretty good. So let's see that stuff. We'll load the game up, and then we will talk about some of the things that maybe we could work on for this time. Laser sights. No, not even as cool as laser sights. It's just like a floating reticle. You'll see it. I'll show you in a second. Let's get the casting web page up here, and then we will launch the game into the headset. All right, give me a second. All right. I just need to hit some buttons in the headset to start casting to that web page that I opened. Wrong button. Cast to my computer. Do it. Let's see if you guys see what I'm seeing. All right, that is the ceiling in the corner of my room. And we need to tell Godot to deploy to my Quest 3. And what's the problem? Oh my god. Okay, Adam. You are very familiar with this problem, I am sure. Switching between using Godot 4.2 and Master means my editor settings get wiped out constantly. It's aggravating. It's that file format thing going from version 3 to version 4. Where did that window even go? Where did that window even go? Did it go here? Okay, so my window manager is not okay, there it is. It does not play well with multi-window mode, so I always have to put it into single window mode. But then the process of putting it into single window mode requires opening a window, and you get the fun recursive problem there. All right, so now at least we'll be in single window mode, and so the windows will appear where we want them. That's good. And then I need to reset up my Android debug key store. The most annoying setting that this wipes out is my external editor settings, because like I came up with a thing that's actually kind of complicated, like the command line that I have to copy in there, which I guess we'll have to reset that up too in a little bit, but we should be able to get it running in the headset in just a moment. Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem isn't so much importing the older format. It's the fact that I use Master when I'm doing development on Godot, and then I use Godot 4.2 when I'm doing development on my games. And so then when I switch from Master back to Godot 4.2, it sees that the editor settings are in a new version, and it just says, I can't load those, throw them all away. Going from Godot 4.2 to Master works fine, because it's like forward compatible but not backward compatible, or however that works. I always get confused about the forward and backward stuff. Anyway, here is the game. Where is my other controller? I guess I don't need it. Oh, it's wigging out over there. Where did I put that controller? Oh, it's on my lap. Okay. All right, so this game, you fly this airplane and you shoot these bug guys. They've gotten too far past me to shoot them. I'll have to wait for the next round. You guys are seeing this, right? Okay. And you can see out there in the distance, there is the reticle. So I think it's not obvious enough to, I think, take people out of, the idea that I'm in a biplane, because it's just this sort of light, semi-translucent gray thing out there. So I think it kind of works. I will need to try this with some more people and see if anyone brings up anything about the aiming reticle. And we have to get to the next wave before they can shoot me, but we will get killed, and I'll show you the plane exploding and all of that stuff. Here you can see we have this cool false horizon. What do they call that? Something horizon. Gauge and our altimeter. These lights here are our health. We worked on that a few weeks ago on stream. All right, these guys will actually shoot at me. They're not shooting very well, though. Okay, here we go. I'll take a couple of hits. You can see the lights down here turn off. One more hit and we'll go into the red. Ooh, I just wanted to get hit by one of those. Come on. Okay, let's get hit by this one. No, this one. Okay, and then the light is blinking. The red light blinks. And then when we get hit the final time, we get the smoke. The plane goes down there and explodes. Look up here. I've got this white parachute above me. And you can see I'm sitting in this seat. We have our hold trigger to restart, which I think is going to crash when I try it. But let's give it a shot. So I'm going to hold the trigger. Oh, has it already crashed? It has already crashed. Oh, were you guys even seeing my stuff? Or was Godot open the whole time? Godot may have been open the whole time. Well, in any case, let's try and fix this. So it looks like we have some code that's trying to aim at the player, but the player has been despawned or something along those lines. So let's go check this out. We have aim at player action, which is this code. Maybe we'll just do this not in VS Code. Usually I do my code editing in VS Code rather than in the Godot editor, but since all of my editor settings have been wiped out, let's maybe use Godot to have a little change of pace. All right, so game state plane, aim at vector, line 15. Calculate aim vector, enemy. Okay. Invalid type in function, calculate aim vector in base, object derived class of argument 1 previously freed is not a subclass of the expected argument class. Interesting. So because enemy is no longer valid, it's been freed. It no longer has the right type, and so it's failing the type check? That's weird. So I guess we can do if not is instance valid enemy here. Continue. However, I feel like we shouldn't even get to this point. So aim at player action. So this is one of our actions in our behavior tree, which runs on a formation. Oh, I guess this can totally happen. Because even though the enemy is gone, the formation still exists. Why is the enemy still in the formation though? I think we have a deeper bug to fix here. Yes, but master 4.3 and 4.2 use the same settings. Instead of master using its own 4.3 settings, the 4.2 keeps using its own settings. Oh, that's an interesting idea. So then the editor settings are completely segregated between the two versions. I guess that makes sense. It does seem a little bit annoying insofar as, like, let's say I used, Godot 4.0, then I switched to Godot 4.1, then I switched to Godot 4.2, and let's say sometime after I started using Godot 4.2, I changed a bunch of my settings. Like maybe I changed the way my script works that loads VS Code, and now I want to go back to Godot 4.1, and it's still using the old VS Code settings, and now I have to copy those. So that is kind of annoying, but I feel like that's better than the current state of things. Hey, DannyDev23, welcome to the stream. Did you get a cool character? Oh, you're just a braided person like me. I have 2 braids, you have 1 braid. We're all braided people. Ah, okay, so you guys did actually see when things exploded, it wasn't just staring at the Godot editor the whole time. That's good. All right. I am so distractible. Let's get back on task here. So I feel like, first of all, something is going wrong such that the enemy is still in this formation when it shouldn't be. That's thing number one. Thing number two, I feel like if we ask the formation for active handles, it should not return a handle if its owner is no longer valid. So I think there's two bugs we could fix here that would lead to this not being necessary, this new code. So let me actually just comment this out. Ah, that's cool, Danny Dev. Catch you later. All right, so the first part of that, we have a thing where if the enemy dies, they switch to a particular behavior that will make them just leave the area. Before I added that, what would happen is your plane would, fall into the clouds and explode, and the enemies would keep trying to attack you as if you were still alive. Another option was they could have just stopped doing anything at all and just sort of hung there. But what I felt the best, like just thematically, is they've blown you up, so they're like, okay, and they just kind of turn and fly away. So we have a behavior that runs when that happens. So either as part of that behavior or as part of the code that loads that behavior, I think we need to have the enemies leave from any formation that they're a part of. So I'm so lost doing this in the Godot editor. I already am missing VS Code. Let's bring VS Code back into this situation. And I gotta go find my settings for this. I think I put them in here. Here we go. All right, I got a special script that basically what it's doing is it's attempting to find the VS Code workspace that's associated with a particular Godot project because it isn't always in the same directory. And if there is a VS Code workspace, I want it to open that workspace rather than just opening the directory because I sometimes have like workspace specific settings in VS Code. So let's close all of these, close all. Let's get VS Code running. All right. Okay. So let's start in the plane, because the plane is where things die originally. Player life state changed. All right, so we're emitting this player life state change signal, which I assume is ultimately what triggers that behavior to be loaded. Changed. Oh, and then we have this other signal on the game state, player died. Okay, I bet the enemy script is connecting to this game state, player died, and that is where it is triggering this behavior. So let's find that. We're just going to search for player died. And yep, enemy, player died, connect, on player died. I'm trying to get the thing where I can hold control and click. Well, whatever, it's right here. Okay, so we have the old behavior. We remove it. We get this new behavior. We enable it. Do we have a way to leave the formation from here? Okay, it looks like we have this formation handle. Set formation handle null. All right, yeah, this looks like the way we leave a formation. So we would say set formation handle null, and that would leave the formation. Set formation handle null. All right, so when the player dies and we load this new behavior, we're going to first leave the formation. That should solve the problem, but we're going to do another thing also. Where was that crash? It was in aim at player action. No. Aim at player action, the formation version. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to change this get active handles to remove any handles that have their owner as invalid. What is this ready only business about? So we're already filtering the active handles to only include handles that are ready. But what does that mean? Man, it's been a long time since I worked on the AI sort of side of this project. Okay, so it's part of the handle. I guess the handle has these 3 states: allocated, ready, released. So perhaps allocated is when an enemy says, hey, formation, can I join you? Can you give me a spot in your formation? And then I think ready is probably when the enemy has actually moved into position so that it can start acting as part of the formation and do whatever, action that the formation is trying to do. So basically the idea is enemies can operate on their own, or they can join these formations where they'll all kind of move together and do a thing in unison. And when they're in a formation and being controlled by the formation, all of their normal AI is just turned off, and they're using the AI from the formation. So I think that's what that's about. But we don't ever want handles where the owner is no longer valid. In fact, we probably want to clean those up every once in a while. How would we do that? So perhaps we want something on the handle where we could say get, or no, is valid, and we are valid if owner and is instance valid owner. So if those things are true, we're valid. And then periodically, we should clean those up. Let me add a clean handles function. And what happens when we release a handle? It gets erased. Okay, so it's always tricky looping over lists when you are destroying things in the list, because looping over, if you change a list as you're looping over it, bad things can happen. So you always have to be a little bit careful. And I can see that once we release a handle, this callback runs and erases stuff. So if we're going to loop over them here, we need to do that carefully. One way to do that carefully is to make a copy. So we are going to say for handle in active handles. Wait, we have 2 lists for active and not active handles? Or is it just active handles is what we named the list? I guess it's just what we named the list. All right, so active handles values duplicate. And we want just like a shallow duplication. And then we're going to say if not handle is valid, then handle release. And that should trigger all of the things. So it will cause this handle to emit its signal, and who knows, whatever things out there are listening to that signal, and it will also come back to here, to our grid formation class, and remove it from the list. All right. And now when do we trigger this clean handles? I think it'd probably be good to always clean our handles before we get the active handles. That way, we're only getting a current list. It would be good to do it like not just when we ask for the active handles, but I think this is good enough for now. So then if we come back here, we shouldn't need this code that I added initially, because no matter what, if we say get active handles, they should all be valid. All right, let's test this. And let's test it with a easier level. So there was that big level, which was basically a level for testing AI. where they come in those waves or whatever. Let's use a level that's just for testing getting blown up. I have this health test level. We'll drag it up into our property here, and let's launch it. Why did casting stop? Okay, so this guy's just going to shoot me, which will let me explode. Okay, and see, he's bailing. He got the new behavior to just bail, should disappear into the clouds. Now we have to hold trigger to restart. Did the debugger come up? Looks like no. Now if I hold trigger to restart, we're back in business. Let's go look in the Godot debugger here. Yeah, nothing to worry about. All right, we fixed a bug. Woohoo! Getting things done. All right, let's commit it. Yeah, I don't want to commit all of this. Thanks, Adam. I want to commit the to-do changes. I want to commit the changes in source. But the stuff that I was doing on this hands blend, I was working on some rigging stuff in Blender last night. That I'm not ready to commit yet. So this is fix crash when dying. Fix crash when player dies. Actually, I wonder if this scene actually can't trigger that. So we did that test scene where the enemy just shoots at us. I actually think it might not be able to trigger that bug because there is no formation. I think we might have to test this with that big level that tests the AI stuff because there's formations in it. Let's do that. Hey Hassan, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so I switched the level, and let's do this. We'll play the game a little bit. It takes a tiny bit of time to get to the part of the level where there's a formation, but it's a good play testing opportunity. Just waiting for Godot to deploy a new build that starts on that other level. Here we go. Yeah, the hands right now are these static hands, and I like this hand model, but I would like to have some animations so that your fingers move, so that when you're pressing the trigger here, that you'd be able to see the your trigger finger moving. So that's why I've started working on rigging them in Blender. I am not an artist or particularly skilled at arty things, so hang on, guys. I'm receiving a phone call that I should probably take. Give me a second. All right, sorry about that. My wife called, and I didn't know if it was an emergency or something. So I figured I should take it. But I guess that did give us an opportunity for the level to play through a little bit. I think this is when the enemies go into this formation, and we will be able to die and see if our fix fixed it. Blow me up! Blow me up! Okay, so the plane's gonna go and explode. They're all gonna bail. That's actually kind of cool watching them all fly away. And we can restart. All right. So we did fix the bug. Yay! All right. And we already committed it, so we're good. I guess the question is, what should we work on next? There are a lot of things. Really a lot of things. Some of these things are things that I am personally more confident in doing. Like changing the way the enemies die, adding some new kind of thing to the cockpit, although that would involve us doing some stuff in Blender, which again, is not my strong suit, but we can learn together. This whole thing with the intro sequence, kind of boring, but like a way to teach the player the controls in a way that is as not annoying as possible. There is the rigging that I was doing on the hands last night. Again, a Blender thing. Oh, there's a whole bunch of like VFX things that I want to try with the aliens, like having kind of like a charge up effect before they shoot, and then the actual shots right now are just orange spheres. So a better thing for that. I don't know. Oh, thanks, Hasan. What do you guys think? What do you guys want to work on? Do you want to work on something programmy that I'm good at? Or do we want to learn together by working on something that I'm not good at, like figuring out how to do some VFX, or doing some more arty things like animating the hands? What do you guys feel like? I am not afraid to look like an idiot on stream, so we can certainly do some of the things that I'm not personally good at, and we can all learn together, or you guys can teach me, because some of you are probably better at Blender and all of that kind of stuff than I am. Yeah, and like this is all the things that I've kind of planned for this phase of the project, which is, I guess I called it art and polish. Uh, there is the whole next phase, which is more about level design and making content for the game, which we also could maybe mess around with that if you guys wanted to. I suggest to go towards a complete prototype, completable game, then optimize what needs to be optimized afterwards. What do you mean by optimize? So I mean, this game exists for the purpose of me learning stuff. So, I'm going to waste time on making the art better, even though the game isn't even all that fun yet, because like I want to learn that stuff, So there isn't. I'm not too worried about wasting time if that's part of your concern there. I guess it's just a question of what do we feel like working on this morning, arty stuff or programmy stuff, and I don't know. Well, we can start simple. We can make the enemy spin more satisfyingly when we kill them. Otherwise, I don't know. I think I'm feeling more towards the things that I'm not good at. Like maybe we could mess around with some VFX, or some modeling or something. Oh, There's a Godot engine stream in 20 minutes? Oh man. What am I doing streaming? I should be watching that stream. You all should be what are you guys doing here? You guys should be watching that stream. That's awesome. I guess I'm gonna miss it, or at least part of it, because I'm gonna be here. Man, I'll watch the recording. Yeah, let's do something simple. Let's make the enemies spin slightly more satisfyingly when we kill them, and then maybe VFX, or maybe we could mess around with the clouds again. I had this idea for the clouds that I would be kind of interested to try. Oh, yep, there's the Godot stream. Maybe this stream could turn into a stream watching the Godot stream. Is that a thing? Do people make streams watching other streams? So I guess it's going to come up. It's not like a pre-announced event. Oh, okay, the Twitch might be an easier way to get in there automatically. Anyway, we'll leave that up for later. A React stream. All right. All right, first things first. Let me show you guys what I mean about the enemies spinning. Oh, those guys have a problem. Oh, you know what? The level kept going. We have another bug to fix. Let's fix this bug. So, you know, I was telling you before that the I added this thing where the enemies would take on this particular behavior after the player dies, so that they wouldn't keep trying to attack a player that isn't there. I didn't think about stopping the logic for the whole rest of the level. We need to like turn the level off. Let's figure out how to do that. So, our levels are built with behavior trees. So this is that level. It has this particular behavior tree running like the kind of overall idea of the level. So first it starts this spawner on the left. It waits till there's no more enemies. Then it waits 2 seconds. Then it starts this enemy spawner on the right. Waits till there are no more enemies. Then waits 2 seconds. Then starts this spawner, which will send enemies to form that grid, waits till there's no more enemies, waits 2 seconds, and then starts over. And that's what this level does forever. And then each of the spawners will have behavior trees associated with them that get attached to the enemies that get spawned from that particular spawner. And this is how we build the levels, right? I guess the only thing I haven't mentioned yet is that the formations also have behavior trees that will take over the enemy AI once the enemy has chosen to join that particular formation. And that's down here. We have this grid formation, and here's the AI associated with it. So it's behavior trees within behavior trees within behavior trees. What we need to do is when the player dies, the level needs to disable, I guess, this main behavior tree, or it needs to disable all behavior trees, because let's say the spawner has already started spawning. We need it to stop spawning. So we need some kind of logic that will go through all of the behavior trees in the level and disable them. Maybe we need to do this on a slightly more individual level. I worry if we were to just like loop over the scene tree and find all the behavior trees and disable them, that could accidentally disable, for example, the behavior tree that we attach when the player has died, which makes them, you know, all turn and fly away. We won't want to accidentally disable that one because that's the one we need. So maybe what we should do is in the enemy spawner script, it will detect if the player dies and then disable itself. In the formation script, it should also do the same thing. And then in the level script, all it needs to worry about disabling then is its main behavior tree. I think that should work. All right. Let's start on that. We're going to make a single level.gd script, which hopefully we'll be able to attach to all of our levels. And what it needs to do is game state player died signal. We're going to connect to it. And I guess on player died. We'll make a function called that. And func on player died. And we will try and grab a behavior tree. I guess we'll say behavior tree named BT root. And if this behavior tree actually exists, then we'll say behavior tree enables. Well, what is the property called? BT root enabled. Enabled equals false. So the level will automatically disable its overall behavior tree when they died. Hassan asks, can you add a suicide behavior to some enemies so that some of them leave the grid and head to the player like Chicken in Chicken Invaders game? Yeah. So far in the game, there isn't damage from the enemies colliding with the player. The only damage comes from shooting. But if we made it so that the enemies colliding with the player cause damage, making the behavior for them to just try and charge the player is super easy. They actually, there is an existing behavior that's on the grid where every so many seconds, 2 enemies will fly out of the grid, fly towards the player until they're within a certain distance of the player, and then they pick a random point behind the player and fly at that random point to avoid colliding with the player. However, if we wanted them to collide with the player, we could do something similar, but instead of picking a random point behind the player, maybe pick a point directly behind the player and then fly straight at it, so that if the player didn't move out of the way, then they would collide and it could cause some damage. That could be an interesting enemy behavior. The cool thing about behavior trees is that each of the little actions that you code are these teeny tiny things, and the overall enemy behavior is composed of all of these little tiny things. Like the behavior I was just talking about. Here's the behavior tree that wait, hang on. Yeah, okay, so here's the behavior tree that does the thing that that I was just describing. So we have a pursue player action, which while pursuing player in parallel, every 1 second with a random deviation of a half a second, it will shoot at the player. And then once it has finished pursuing the player up until 20 meters, then it will switch to this action here, where it selects a point 50 meters ahead, or 50 meters ahead of the target. Yeah, I guess, okay. And then seeks that point. So you can take these little pieces and just compose them together to make whatever kind of AI behaviors that you want. Anyway, what was I doing before I went down this behavior tree rabbit hole? Okay, we were setting up each of these individual pieces to do something smart when the player dies. So this is our spawner script. And we need, you know what? It's this Godot 4.2 bug that drove me crazy. I've gotten so used to it not happening in Godot 4.3, where Godot steals my keyboard focus. It's so frustrating. I'll come over to VS Code and start typing. Why isn't the typing working? It's because Godot's taking my typing. All right. Can't wait till Godot 4.3 releases and I don't have that issue anymore. So in our ready function, we are going to connect to game state player died, where we are going to run our onPlayer died function. And in our onPlayer died function, onPlayer died, we are going to stop our spawner. How do we stop our spawner? I guess there's a stop function. Okay, we'll call stop. Beautiful. Spawner set. Now, the level, the spawner, and the formation. The formation needs to stop doing whatever it's doing. Where's our formation script? Here we go. So, I guess we need to add a, oh, we already have a ready function. Again, Godot stealing my keyboard focus. Oh, what did I do? I've been typing into here. I renamed this node to be called O. That's not good. Git will save us. Let's see what changes have happened to the main scene. Oh, those changes are fine. The level 1 scene, that's where I was typing into. Git diff, level 1. Okay, I attached the script. Okay, no problem. Those changes are fine. This O, let's just hit undo, enemy spawner. We're good. Not a big deal. So over here, we need to connect to game state, player died, connect self on player died. And then down here, func on player died. We need to do the exact same thing that we did over in the level script, where we see if there's behavior tree. And we're using the same naming convention, right? Yep, BT root. Okay, so if the player dies, all formations will disable their behavior trees, and we should be good. So to test this, oh, why did casting stop? Let's take a momentary coffee break, if I can get the coffee to my face. All right, so the bug is, after the player dies, these guys are going crazy because they were created after the player had died. So we are going to test that that doesn't happen when we try it again. So let's try it again. Just waiting for Godot to deploy to the headset, and then the new build will load. All right. So, geez, we have to wait till later till we can die. Oh man, I didn't hit anything. Eee. Got him. All right. Unfortunately, we are going to have to wait till the third wave for someone to come kill us. But if we can kill these guys sooner, the third wave will come sooner. I'm just a terrible, terrible shot. Okay. All right, so these guys are going to make that formation. They're going to shoot at us. We're going to let them kill us. And then we are going to wait around a little bit to see that the level doesn't continue going. We're down to 2, 1. Plane is exploding. Those guys are bailing. So far, so good. We'll watch till they despawn. And I guess wait to see if some new enemies start flying in. That will be the test. I don't think those guys are around anymore. We can double check that everything has happened that we want to have happened by looking at the remote scene tree in Godot. We can go look at our level, and we want to see that this BT route is still enabled. Or wait, so why is the property say enabled, but the member says disabled? What is that music? Is that the Godot stream? Okay, cool. Let's turn the volume off on that. All right, I'm really confused as to what's going on here. Why this one says enabled and this one, or this one is not enabled and this one is enabled. But the proof is, I guess, in the result here that no new enemies are coming. So I think we fixed it. I think we fixed that bug. Just looking at the changes in the diff. Let's make sure this is all stuff I want to commit. All right, source levels, level, GD, that's a new script. Let's add everything under source, actually, should be good. I just don't want to commit that blend file. All right. Make everything in level stop when the player has died. I feel like this stream is just turning into little tweaks to the game, but that's fine. That kind of stuff ends up eating an enormous amount of any game's development, just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking forever. So the thing that we're going to look at first should be very, very simple. We've killed a lot of enemies on stream now, but basically, when we kill an enemy, it is supposed to spin or kind of like start doing just like a rigid body simulation. And sometimes it looks awesome, and sometimes it barely does anything at all, and it is super lame. So what I would like to try to do is make their death behavior more dramatic always. Where is the code for that? All right, here we go. We have this hurt function that is called every time the player gets a hit. If they are not dead, we subtract from their health. If their health gets below 0, then they are dead. They leave their formation. We disable their behavior. We unfreeze their physics simulation. So the enemies are rigid bodies, but we use them not as rigid bodies most of the time. And we do that by changing their freeze mode to kinematic. So we're animating them explicitly and freezing them. And when you unfreeze them, they stop being kinematic bodies and change back into rigid bodies. And then what we do is we figure out where on the enemy we hit them, because the hurt function receives a collision vector, collision point. I guess we're using the collision point to figure out where on the enemy we have hit them, and then we are applying an impulse to that point in the direction of the collision vector times some force variable. And in my personal opinion, I think this looks the most awesome when the enemy spins a little bit. But they don't always end up spinning, depending on where we have hit them. So let's make them always spin some amount, is what I'm thinking. And we can do that by applying some torque. Apply. Do you want to apply torque directly? Applies rotational force without affecting position. Force is time dependent and meant to be applied. Physics update that compared to apply torque impulse. Applies a rotational impulse to the body without affecting position. An impulse is time independent. Applying an impulse every frame would result in a frame rate dependent force. For this reason, it should only be used when simulating one-time impacts. I feel like this is what we want, a torque impulse. And what are the arguments? Just a vector. Inertia is required for this to work. To have inertia, an active collision shape must be a child of this node, or you can manually set inertia. Interesting. So using simulating one-time impacts, use underscore force functions otherwise. So would that be apply torque force? What are these force functions? Apply central force. Applies a directional force without affecting rotation. Now, okay, I think we want a torque impulse. I just don't really know what the values of this vector mean. We can just apply a random value, let's say between -1 and 1. Again, I don't really know what these values mean, so let's just try that and see what happens. And let's pick a good test level to blow some stuff up. What are our different levels here? What does test level do? I think test level just has a ton of them fly around in a circle. So let's do that. Let's have a whole ton of enemies fly around in a circle. Just waiting for Godot to deploy the new build here. All right, guys, let's blow you up, or try at least. I have to hit you first. That wasn't terribly impressive. Ooh, that one spun. So that one's spinning. Does it seem like they are always spinning? I just can't even tell. I don't think what we did really did much. All right, so we tried random values between 0 and 1. My guess is that that's not big enough. Let's try doing times the force. And we'll break this up on multiple lines to make it a little easier to read. And actually, that'll make it a little easier to make this change too, because I can copy paste this. Let's give this a try. So now we're applying random values between negative force and positive force, whatever force happens to be. I'm not actually sure. It's some value that we gave to represent how hard this projectile is hitting. Oh, Autumn, catch you later. good luck on your stream, which we will probably watch a tiny bit of on this stream in a moment. Okay. Come on. Does it really seem like they're spinning more? Not really, honestly. Okay, we need to figure out what the heck this thing does. Let's maybe just make a test scene and apply some forces and see what happens, and then that'll help us kind of rationalize what this thing does. So let's say new scene. It's a 3D scene. We'll call it test torque. Let's throw an enemy scene in here. All right, we're gonna need a camera. Which way do cameras look? They look positive. Why? Oh, I wish I was closer to this camera to see its funny little funnel thing. No, they're looking negative Y. Okay, so let's rearrange this a little bit. How about we move the camera back to the center, and we're going to move the enemy this way a bunch, and then spin them around. Okay, and then we are going to attach a script here. We're going to grab this enemy. And I guess first things first, we're going to unfreeze them. Oh, unready var enemy. And we're going to see what this looks like. So we should just see the enemy, I guess, start to fall, is what I would expect. No. Play the scene, please. All right, so the enemy's going to start to fall. Could probably use some light. We need a directional light. Let's bring it up. And we're going to point it maybe like this, so that we see our enemy falling with a little more color. It does seem to be sort of tilting forward, although I don't know if that's just the perspective of the camera. Let's now try applying some torque. So enemy, apply torque impulse, vector 3. Let's make a guess as to what this means. Let's say, what if applying a torque around the y-axis means it's going to spin this way? Let's make that theory, and then let's test it. We're going to apply 100 torque on the y-axis and see what happens. Nothing! What the heck? Let's apply 100 torque on all the axes and see what happens. Nothing. Okay. Let's get rid of this torque one and say apply, not central force, apply impulse. This will need a position. Hang on. What are the arguments? The first is the impulse, the second is the position. So vector 3, 0. We'll just apply it to the middle of the enemy. Okay, so that shot them this way. I have to take a quick break to run to the bathroom, but I will be back in a moment. Okay, sorry about that. All right. What are we going to try next? Oh, actually, let's take a look at what's going on with this stream. Let's go see what's going on the Godot stream.
I'm an adult.
People are gonna clip this and put it out of context. Welcome to life on the internet.
Yeah, Rule 34 or something like that. It should be starting May 10th then, and it runs for 9 days.
We can actually show them. We do have HIO open, so we can look at the pages together. Or look at your website. What do you prefer?
Sounds like we're talking about a jam.
Let's see. Let's go.
Since the last jam hasn't ended, it's
Ah,
not been
the Godot Wild Jam.
Yeah.
The Godot Wild Jam is a really sweet jam. I highly recommend it if no one's ever done the Godot Wild Jam before. Oh, I guess this stream is all about the Godot Wild Jam? Okay, so I guess on the official Godot stream that is happening today, they are playing games from the Godot Wild Jam. That sounds fun. Cool. All right, back to what we're working on. I am still very, very confused as to how we can apply some torque here. So there were some other torque related functions. There was enemy apply torque, not torque impulse, but apply torque. And what arguments does this one take? Just a float applies a rotational force without affecting position. The force is time dependent and meant to be applied every physics update. But I don't get it. Like it's a three-dimensional thing. Oh, it probably doesn't have the right type here. Okay, so let's say this would be a rigid body 3D. Apply torque. All right, this takes a vector 3. So again, we're going to theorize that applying torque to the y-axis will spin it around this way. So we're going to apply 100 on the y-axis And we're going to see if that is what happens. It is not. Do these need to be called during physics process? Well, this apply impulse seemed to work. I also don't entirely understand this note about inertia. Note, inertia is required for this to work. To have inertia, an active collision shape must be a child of the node, which it is. I mean, there's a collision shape on this thing. Well, let's try applying this on all axes and see what happens. Still a whole lot of nothing. Oops. Let's take a trip over to the docks. Using rigid body. Rigid body 3D. Let's check that out. All right. How to control a rigid body. A rigid body's behavior can be altered by setting its properties such as mass and weight. Physics material needs to be added to the rigid body to adjust its friction and bounce, and set if it is absorbent or rough, blah, 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 blah. There are several ways to control a rigid body's movement depending on your desired application. If you only need to place a rigid body once, for example, to set its initial location, you can use the methods provided by Node 3D, such as cycle. Common mistake when implementing this kind of behavior is to use look at every frame, which bases the physics simulation. Look at method, okay. So this example is using integrate forces directly. This isn't super helpful though. Let's go check out inertia here. Body's moment of inertia, it's like mass, but for rotation, it determines how much torque it takes to rotate the body on each axis. The moment of inertia is usually computed automatically from the mass and the shapes. This property allows you to set a custom value. What do we have the mass of the enemies set at? 10 kilograms. Okay. Gravity scale, mass distribution, auto, deactivation, solver. Could we just set the angular velocity? Is that a thing we can do? Angular velocity, rigid body's rotational velocity in radians per second. I feel like we shouldn't be doing that. Like we should be applying torque rather than directly messing with the. This is interesting. Add constant torque. I didn't even see that one before. Apply torque impulse. Time independent. Applying an impulse every frame would result in a frame rate dependent force. For this reason, it should only be used when simulating one-time impacts. We want to simulate an impact. Maybe I'm just not using big enough numbers? Let's crank this up to 10,000. We're going to apply 10,000 torque on all axes and see what happens. Literally nothing. Wow. Let's try waiting until the next frame. We can say var first frame equals true. And then let's do func physics process if first frame, then first frame equals false. So we're just going to do it the one time. And then let's bring all this junk down here. Into our first frame stuff. It's going to apply the torque impulse. I am flabbergasted as to why this seems to do absolutely nothing. Let's try add constant torque. Let's try that one. Oh, whoa! Okay, well that one spun it like crazy. Why does an impulse not happen? Let's take a look at somewhere there was this inertia setting. Inertia. Set to zero, inertia is automatically computed. The moment of inertia can usually be automatically computed for the best of shapes. This property allows you to set a custom value. Moment of inertia. Determines how much torque it takes to rotate. Center of mass mode, automatic. Can be also custom. Can sleep. I want to play with this inertia and see what it does. Let's turn these off. Let's just see what happens if I crank the inertia up on this one. Let's say, I don't know, 10 on each axis. See if that has any effect. No. And then let's go back to here and let's try again with this 10,000 torque impulse, because that just feels like the method we should be calling. Oh, interesting. So it's unable to calculate its inertia. Why is it unable to calculate its inertia? All right, so we set some amount of inertia, and then we apply a much more reasonably sized torque impulse. Let's go back. Yeah, actually, let's go back to our original set of theories, which is let's apply a torque impulse just to the y-axis and see what that does. Okay. So that's pretty good, actually. Now that spins it this way. I think we also want it to spin a little bit this way, so I guess that would be the x-axis. So let's maybe do 100 here, or maybe a lower amount, 50, something like that. And a tiny bit of spinning on this axis, like even less. Let's go 25. And I kind of would like these things to fall out of the sky a little faster. So let's adjust our gravity scale. Let's I don't know, quadruple the effect of gravity. Maybe 5 multiplied by 5. Quintuple. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, let's make this a little bit random. Let's say let's say rand f range from 25 to 50 on the x. 50 to 100 on the y, and let's say 10 to 25 on the z. I'm just making these numbers up. I mean, I know proportionally I want most of the rotation on the y, a little more on the x, and the least on the z, but I'm just guessing numbers here. That seems like a nice tumble out of the sky. All right. To make this permanent, we need to edit the enemy scene itself. We can set the inertia, and then let's take this bit here and move it into our enemy scene. And the hope is that this will just be way more interesting when we blow enemies up. So let's test it out. Which level do we have loaded? We have test level. That's the one where there's just a bajillion of them flying in a circle forever. So let's give that one a shot. Let's deploy ya. Oop. I'm trying to get casting going, but there we go. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. I cannot shoot for anything. Whoa! He just wigged out. Okay, that was way too much. Way too much of everything. Why is it so much here and it was so little when we were testing it earlier? Enemy. Oh yeah, I forgot to do this gravity scale thing. I want gravity to be 4 times as strong. Mass 10, inertia. I guess let's lower the heck out of these numbers. But I don't know why. I don't know, it's just approximately divide by 10. So we'll see what we get there. They just go wild. I wonder if it's because we're applying the torque and the normal impulse. It'd be worth trying this without applying that impulse and see what that does. It's still nuts. All right. Let's first try removing this. because we made those changes to gravity and we made those changes to inertia, and I don't know what effect it would have on its own, like just those changes to the scene. So we'll try that first, and then that will show us just what the effect of the apply impulse is, and then we can maybe try doing the reverse, remove the apply impulse and keep the apply torque impulse. I can't aim. Come on, hit him. Hit him. Still, okay, so this is without the torque being applied at all. So it was purely that inertia change. Okay. So where's our test scene? Test torque. Why is it so different here versus there? Okay, let's attempt to decide what happens when inertia increases. So here we're going with our original test. Let's change the inertia 10x to 100 on all axes. And then let's see that. So that made it less effective. Okay, so let's go to the enemy. Let's try increasing the inertia. Because I don't even know what is like a reasonable value for this. Now let's try doing that in the actual game. All right, I'm just waiting for the deployment again. Get over here, baddies. Okay. That is much nicer. And you know what? Well, I mean, that's the first one. I guess we need to see. Yeah, look at that. This is without even adding any torque. The only adjustment here is the inertia. Okay, that is so much more interesting. Okay, no, that is beautiful. All right, let's go clean this up. So we don't need this torque impulse. We're just applying the same impulses we did before. I think what's happening here is our inertia value, whatever it was automatically calculating, was way bigger than these numbers. These numbers being smaller means that slightly more interesting stuff happens. So let's go look in Git what the actual changes are. Yeah, just gravity scale and inertia. I think we could probably use this inertia too to tune this a little bit, to make more rotation on the axes that we want to have rotation on and less on the others. And actually, I think we could probably increase this gravity scale a little bit so they fall out of the sky a little faster. Yeah, let me take a look at this and see if there's any axes where I would like a little bit less rotation. I mean, all the rotation seems to happen on the y-axis is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Which, I mean, that's where we wanted most of the rotation. But it is kind of cool when you get them in a little bit different way. I mean, I guess it depends all on where you hit them. So if you hit them in the center of their body, it seems like we get mostly Y. but if you hit them kind of in different parts, it'll give it a little bit of a different spin. Let's maybe try, just for the heck of it, increasing the inertia around the y-axis and just see what effect it has. Let's go from 100 to 200. And theoretically, that change should take place immediately, but let's see if it actually does. Are you guys seeing this? Okay, good. I always forget to put that on there. I mean, I think this is good. I mean, we now see more spin and more downward motion than we did before. So maybe it's too much inertia on the Y. Let's have that. Go from 200 to 150. Double headsets. All right. I need to shoot some that are a little further away so I can see it better. Let's try taking this back to 100 and see if it's looking the way it was looking before. I am unclear as to whether my changes are having an immediate effect or not, to be honest. We may need to try redeploying this just to see. Let's try maybe... well, let's just try redeploying it. Let's just try redeploying it and see... I hate this uncertainty in whether or not my in-editor changes are applying live, because they do sometimes, but then when they don't, I start to doubt, you know, am I just not seeing an effect, or is it not coming through, or was it coming through before, but now it isn't? Oh, come on. No, I think we're good. Let's ship it. I think it's good. Every death was looking a little bit different, and yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's go look in Git, see what we got. The main change here, the only one that really matters, is the changes to the enemy scene. That new test scene that I created, we don't necessarily need to keep that. And let's update the to-do, since I did have this in my to-do. Always spin when dying rather than being completely random. Do we do anything else on here? No. Improve enemy rotation on death. All right. And you know, when we started working on that, I was like, let's do the easy thing. Let's do something we could just do real quick. And what did that take us? Like an hour? Hey, Emily, welcome to the stream. Did you get a cool character? You got kind of a normal character. You just look like a normal person. Although I suppose I do too. I'm just a person with braids. So we are working on a VR game that is inspired by Galaga in the Godot game engine. And I didn't have like a real strong idea for which particular thing we are going to work on in the game today. So we've just been kind of doing a mix of different things. Yeah. So I'm only gonna be streaming for about 20 more minutes. I don't want to get into anything too big. We just finished making the enemies kind of spiral out of control a little bit better when they die. So in 20 minutes, what can we do? Maybe we can work on kind of this intro sequence, or at least get a start on it. So the game, you have very, very simple controls. You can grab the flight stick. Are you guys seeing me? No, you're not. You can grab the flight stick with your hand, move it around, pull the trigger to shoot. And I want to be able to explain that to the player in a relatively simple, non-annoying way. So what I was thinking it was, you start the game and you see some text that says, grab stick to steer. You grab the stick. As soon as you grab it to steer, that message fades away. A new message fades in that says pull trigger to shoot. You pull trigger to shoot. That fades away. And then essentially the game starts, where we would have one last thing, which I don't know if I'll be able to pull this off, but the idea I had was a giant like Made in Godot logo that like flies at you before the level actually begins. Yeah, with the idea that if the player immediately grabs the stick and immediately starts shooting, it will skip all the first two steps, so that if you've played it before and you just want to go straight in, or you're relatively experienced in VR and can just sort of guess that you grab the stick, move it around, and shoot, we don't need to go through all the hullabaloo of showing these messages and all of that. So let me actually take the headset off, because I think we can do this without having to have the headset on, at least for the beginning part, and having the headset floating on my head is kind of annoying. Emily asks, how much is developed? Is it in deployment phase? So we're kind of in this phase of trying to polish up a lot of little things before going into the final phase, which is going to be level design and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a very, very small project. My goal is to get kind of like a 20-minute experience that I can then put on App Lab on the MetaQuest store, just so I can have something on App Lab and I can show it to people and it'll be fun. I mean, it's a learning experience kind of game is the goal here. So I don't know. I mean, depending on how much time I put into it, it's not too far from being done, because the goals are very, very small. Let us begin. So we have our main scene. I think it's probably going to be the main scene that orchestrates this, because I think it's the main scene. Yeah, the main scene is what's responsible for starting or for restarting the game. So I think it should be responsible for also starting the game. What else do you do other than showing development on Twitch? I do a lot of things. I mean, I'm a Godot engine maintainer, so I mean, I work on the Godot engine on the XR and GD extension teams. I do work on the Godot engine for W4 Games as my job. I have some kids and they need things. We play together. I do a lot of things in my life. I don't know specifically what you're asking about. Let me know exactly what you mean, and I can give a better answer. Okay, so to start out, we have this UI area. Probably this is where we'll put those messages as well. I guess I started breaking it up into screens, which makes sense. We can have a script that kind of like cycles through these screens. I've done that before with other games just as a way to structure my UI. Then how do you find time for streaming? I stream only on Fridays for about 2 hours, so it's a pretty low investment for me, honestly, to just stream once a week for a couple hours. Hopefully that answers the question. All right, so this will be the first message that we want to show. What's a good name for it? So I don't want to call it stick screen. We'll say movement screen. How about that? And we're going to put a label similar to this label. So we'll just duplicate that one. And we will say, I guess, movement label. And the message will be grab. Should we grab flight stick? Is flight stick one word or 2 words? Flight stick. Joystick, flight simulator, flight stick. 2 words appears to be the consensus per Google. Grab flight stick to steer. That seems like a pretty straightforward message. The next screen will be, I guess, our gun screen. I have a gun label. And we're going to say pull trigger. Pull trigger to shoot. But do I need to explain that you need to pull the trigger while holding the stick? Pull trigger while holding flight stick, or while holding flight stick, pull trigger to shoot. While holding flight stick, pull trigger to shoot. And yeah, we need to hide this one. While holding flight stick, pull trigger to shoot. Do you need a helping hand with development, design, and testing? I mean, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to get design advice. I am not a terribly great artist, so that's something I could always need help with. And testing, I mean, yeah, come hang out on the Discord. There's a link over this-ish way. I have not actually been distributing builds of the game on Discord for people to test. I probably should, though. I've done that with other projects and other games. We have a playtesting channel on the Discord, which the goal there is for both me and anyone else on the Discord who's making their own games to share stuff there for other people to play. So come hang out. If you also make games, come show off your games. We can all make games together. All right. While holding flight stick, pull trigger to shoot. Hopefully that is really visible. Yeah, seems pretty good. And then we will have whatever the Maiden Godot thing that I wanted to show next, but I don't think that's going to be a UI. I don't think it's going to be part of this UI structure. The thought that I had actually was having it be like big and in the world, so you could kind of fly around to it. I'm not sure about that though. Couldn't find my Discord. The link is over here. It's snowpetgames.com/discord should take you to a Discord invite link. If it's not working or something, please let me know. It's been a while since I've tested that. Okay, so the script for this. We need to have some sort of state, like overall state of the game. I guess not overall state of the game. This would be the state of kind of like a startup sequence. We have this game state singleton, like this auto load, that makes me think, just from its name, that I should be keeping the state of the game here. But this isn't like the overall state. This is like the state of the intro. And if the main script is managing the intro, maybe it should all just live here. So that just creates a naming conundrum. What do we call it? I guess intro state. Awesome. I'm glad you found it. So this would be intro state. We'll say what did we call these things? It was like movement. Should we do it that way, or should these be individual flags? Maybe these should be individual flags. Okay, so we'll have a player moved flag, which starts out as false, and player shot flag, which starts out as false. And then we need to control whether we are in-game or not in-game. Oh, and we only want to do this when the game starts up, too. We don't want to do this when we restart the level or whatever. Or do we? Okay. Am I imagining that it's going to be the same person playing over and over again, or are we going to have times where we hand the headset over to the next person? And if we succeed in making this not very annoying, then it kind of doesn't matter if we do it every time. Okay. We'll clear these flags when we restart. Let's say that. And when we start up, we need some way to know whether we're in-game or not in-game yet. So we'll say maybe like game started, false. So we need a way to set these flags based on what the player does, which I think we need to go into our plain script. And here we should be able to maybe add some signals that will let us know if the player has moved the stick or the player has fired the gun. What's the best place to put that? Let's see, flightstick.gd, flight stick script. So how does this work? It sets a rotation vector every frame, and then does the plain script grab that rotation vector? Ooh. Rotation, stick rotation. Where does it get this from? Stick vector. Stick vector equals flight stick, get stick vector. Okay. So if stick vector does not equal 0, okay, so this would mean that the player has moved the stick. And so here we could emit a signal. Okay, what are we going to name this signal? This would be signal player moved. And we're also going to have a signal for player shot. So then we'll say player moved, emit, and then where do we handle shooting? Gun pull trigger. So do we care about that they pulled the trigger, or do we care about that they actually shot the gun? Not that it really matters, because in this context, we just care about the first time they ever did it. let's just do it here. Let's just say player shot emit. Okay, so we'll have these signals on the plain script that will emit when the player does these things, and then we need to connect those to functions in the main script that will then clear our flags. Hi, Arduino Zone, welcome to the stream. I assume the I'm boy is in reference to the character that you got. I mean, you're a character with a braid. I don't think that necessarily says anything gender related, but I got a pretty good character. You kind of look like a monk, like a sort of monk friar kind of costume with like a belt. Okay, so in our main scene, let's find our plane node. And we are going to connect to player moved. Did it put the function in here? Yes, it did. On player moved. Oh, actually, you know what? We shouldn't connect in the editor because we only want this to happen once. Is that something we can configure? Here, advanced. One shot. Hey, cool. I didn't even know you could do that. All right. So this signal is connected in the editor, but it's only going to fire the first time. And it's going to say, it's going to say player moved equals true. And we'll do a similar signal for player shot, one shot, player shot. Okay, now we are going to have the movement screen shown first. Grab flight stick to steer. That'll be shown when the game loads up. And then we don't want to load the level right away. Load level, blah, blah, blah. This needs to not happen quite yet. Here we would say game started equals true. So we're getting all our flags set up. We're running out of time though. I don't know that we'll be able to get this doing anything quite useful before I run out of time. But I guess to just sort of look forward about what we have to do next, we start out showing that screen. I think we're going to want to have a script on this UI node to allow us to easily switch between these screens. Because otherwise we're going to have to do a whole bunch of manual work, which was fine when we just had the restart screen. But now that we have all these different screens, we're going to want to work with that in a more organized way. But so the game starts out. Oh, the thing with making these one shot though means we can't reset them and start over. Yeah, that might not be the right thing to do. Well, anyway, we are quickly running out of time. I'm sorry that we didn't get very far on this last bit that we were trying to do with the kind of intro sequence that teaches the player the controls. But it was an interesting stream. We didn't blow anything up this time. What did we do this time? We fixed some bugs. I think that's all we did. We fixed some bugs and improved the death movements for the enemy characters. So, thank you everyone for joining me today. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you on Discord or on the next stream next week. So, yeah, thanks again. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.